So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about why your family and friends don't want you to be rich. And this is something that Dan Pena covered in his seminar. And I've always wondered, why is he talking about family and friends? I mean, this is a business and finance course, and we should be talking about how to buy companies, how to create wealth, negotiation styles, communication styles, even being dressed for success, I understand. Mindset, I understand. But why family and friends? Why are they so important? Why do they carry so much weight in our lives? But they do. And it is an extremely important subject because a lot of these people could be holding you back, either overtly or covertly, without you knowing it. And some of them may do it in the form of schemes, manipulative tactics, or turning the whole situation against you, or keeping you dependent on them. There may be thousands of covert ways where somebody may have control over you. And a classic sign of that is when you want to do something, you decide that you're going to do it, but you're just, for whatever reason, being dragged into someone else's reality. You're dragged into a conversation, you're distracted by a phone call or with a message or with a emotionally manipulative text, that you don't love me and all of that, or some reason due to which your attention is taken away from work, taken away from your goal, taken away from the target. And this happens so many times that you may think that this is random, that right now you were working and you got distracted. I just got distracted. Maybe I need better focus tactics. But your distraction wasn't accidental. There was an agenda behind diverting your attention away from what you were going after. There is a strategic reason why people do that. And some people in my family like to ask me what I'm going to eat and continue that conversation, whatever it takes to distract me. And it can be as subtle as that. What are you going to eat? Just disrupting the flow of work and interrupting, right? So this can happen in many ways. That's the point. So why don't they want you to be rich? Well, let's start with a couple of categories of friends and family, right? Family could mean mother and father, brother, and that immediate family, the blood relative. And then you've got the girlfriend that maybe you live with, or wife, kids. Kids are generally good. I wouldn't include kids, but the wife archetype or girlfriend, mother, father, brother, sister, that kind of thing. And then you've got your friends, right? So these people are watching you like a hawk as to what you're doing, where you're going, and what your plan is, because their life is tied to you. This is an organization, and everybody has roles and responsibilities within this organization, and everybody has different level of power within this framework, this structure. And money is something that has a very disruptive nature. When you have money, suddenly your mouth opens up and you start speaking the truth, because you can get away with speaking the truth. You can be offensive and still get away with it. So money tends to have this quality of releasing your tongue, where you may say something that might offend. And it has got this disruptive power where you cannot be oppressed, you cannot be controlled, and you cannot be used to fulfill somebody else's agenda, right? So people are watching you, how you're around money. And they will do their best to make sure that you make enough to survive, but not make too much of it, and try to distract you and try to instill values of greed is not good, too much money is not good, don't work too hard, you're going to get stressed, you may get a heart attack, you may get wrinkles, all kinds of reasons. You don't love me, why don't you pay attention to me? You're not fulfilling your duties, your responsibilities, like you're some slave that they own. and all of that, right? So there is an element of power disruption that comes with you being successful. If you are more successful than your father, well, you would command presence that might make him jealous. And so there's going to be this conflict, a contradicting narrative. I lost my father early on, but I had an elder brother who made a lot of money. And I got into that dynamic with him when I was negotiating a $10 million deal. And I showed him the business that I was talking to. He came to my room and he saw, and he was kind of like the head of the family, making all the money, taking care of everybody. And he saw that I was going to make more money than him. And suddenly he saw that the entire table is going to turn, and I would have the command essentially, because, of the things that I was doing. And he realized, holy shit, did I just create a monster who's going to just take over my position? And he may have these emotions that may drive him that's probably even beyond his control. And from that point on, his sole agenda became to stop me to build this company. And he started to withdraw financial support. He started to withdraw resources. He exercised every control he can. He started to poison my ears, started to put doubts in my mind, and started to really divert my attention just away from the project. And he used very hostile methods. So that's a classic example that if Dan Pena did not cover this as a part of the seminar, I would not be aware of it. Because he did, I was aware of it. Now, this is why it's important to talk about family, is because he has nothing to do with my business, but he's still in my business. Family should not be related to business life, but it is related. So things can happen in a way, family can create problems that you may not anticipate because you don't doubt them. So that's a couple of reasons. The disruption of power is one aspect of it, that all the power is going to be renegotiated and restructured once you start to make a lot of money, because you would command the family. And this happened even when my brother started to make a lot of money. My mother's power started to get disrupted, because if he starts to make too much money, my mother would lose control, and she cannot impose her ideology, and she would lose control of ourselves. And she did, and we started to travel the world, and a whole different kind of situation happened as a result of money. So she didn't want to lose the control. She wanted to have our brains in her hands. She didn't want us to have an independent thought, because then that would mean we could be in Paris, we could be in London, and who would be there back at home taking care of her when she gets old? So she has an agenda in her mind which is selfish, related to her, and she wants to use the power that she has to control. Same thing that happened with my brother, and I was being controlled, and I was stopped in many occasions. So that's an example of a power disruption. Second is when you start to make a lot of money, you are calling them weak and you're calling them losers. But you might say, but I never said anything like that. I never even implied, and I didn't even have an attitude about it. I was just sharing about my success. No, you sharing about your success in their word equates to you calling them weak, or you calling them a loser, or you calling them worthless, you calling them less successful, less capable, less competent. You're exposing their weaknesses, and they will not like you for that. Okay, so get ready. If you want to be successful, you got to be hated. Even if you haven't done anything, you have to be hated. Okay? You will be hated, and you have to be okay with that, even though it's not your fault. Okay, so that's another reaction that you would get. Of course, jealousy. Let's say a friend calls you and says, hey, John, I just got a Bentley, yesterday. And what do you think about that? And you would be like, okay, congratulations. Are you going to tell me how you made it? Not really. I mean, I will have to keep that private. You hate the guy and you feel jealous. I remember I used to be in some top clubs or bars when I used to go there. If somebody dressed up like me, like I am dressed up, walked in, my immediate response would be, this guy would be an asshole. He hasn't spoken a word yet, but my first response is, this guy is an asshole. And then, God forbid, he walks up to an attractive girl and kisses her on the cheek. You know how they do kisses on the cheek? If he does that, he's definitely an asshole, right? And that's jealous. Deep down, you've experienced it, I've experienced it. But when you are being successful, you no longer feel the jealousy. You're just enjoying the success. But watch around. People are looking at you. People have their eyes on you, and they are feeling jealous. I remember I was in London in a Tony Robbins seminar, and there was this really attractive Brazilian girl that a couple of my friends were talking to. I just walked in, and the girl who was talking to my friend suddenly looked at me, and she had this sparkle eye, and she smiled, and she was like, okay, who is this guy, who's so bright and confident, etc., etc. Because I had been working on my social skills, the way I stood was different, the way I communicated was different. I had been in thousands of social interactions. I did a lot of courses around that. So obviously my communication came out different. My presence was different. I was much more grounded. And these guys, they were just starting out. One of them, immediately as I started to talk to her, this guy got jealous, and he happened to be my best friend, who I brought to London through my connection with my brother in a job opportunity. He would not have gotten that opportunity if it wasn't for me. So he's standing there because of me, and I helped him so many times. But in that scenario, that was his girl. And he knew about 30 seconds, but that was his girl. And he's not going to be like, oh, great, she likes him, Prithvi's going to get laid, I should be happy for him. No, that's not human nature. He's going to think, she was my girl, meaning she belonged to me, and Prithvi took her away from me. She just stole the girl from me. And he's an asshole. He's going to project all of that. He's not going to say, when Prithvi was inviting me to build social skills, when Prithvi was recommending me courses that he could use to build social skills, and when Prithvi was inviting me to go out to work on the social skills, I didn't go, and I didn't develop my competence. And Prithvi did, and I just laughed at him, and I was distracted watching movies. He's not going to think that. He's going to think that Prithvi is an asshole. He's not going to be aware of the fact that he did not put in the work that I put in, where without even saying a word, I could command attention that he could not. And instead of asking me, would you teach me or, help me or whatever, he just said, I was an asshole. And that happens too. Success attracts jealousy. Success attracts a lot of jealousy. Look at Donald Trump, where most people are traveling in an aircraft, sharing the aircraft with 300 people, and he has the same size aircraft where he travels with only a couple of people. He has the whole aircraft to himself. It's hard to love that guy. I like him now, but before, it's easy to hate him. And especially when you have any degree of control over a person like that, when they're in your vicinity, the natural reaction is to stop them, to hold them back, and that's what people around you will do. You have to be careful. The third is triggering their insecurities. Relationships are based on exchange of values. Okay, it's kind of like a barter system. A relationship, I used to think, is organized around love. I was wrong. They're not organized around love. They're organized around some exchange of skills, some exchange of something. Okay, even if it's company, entertainment, but there is some commodity being exchanged, even in relationships, even in friendships. It's not purely non-transactional or purely based out of love. There's always a transaction. So when your friends or family or girlfriend, for example, or wife sees that you're becoming more and more successful, well, now you can hang out with better people. And you may forget about them, and that can happen. And they may feel like you're going to forget about them. and they might, instead of upgrading themselves, they might want to downgrade you. Classic example of this is if you go with a guy for a running. I used to go with a guy for a marathon, and if I start overtaking him, he would just grab my t-shirt and pull me back. That's a classic example. Rather than speeding up, he would drag me down. And this was this guy's personality. He was also another friend of mine, but he did this with everything. It wasn't just a marathon. Even if we travel outside, for example, to Europe, if I see a girl and I would be like, let me go talk to her, because he can't walk up and talk to her. He would grab me and he would say, oh no, she wouldn't talk to you. Or he would whisper and poison my ears to validate his own insecurities. He doesn't want me to talk to her because that would be a loss for him. But if I just stay with him, he kind of feels good about himself. That, okay, I didn't get it, but he didn't get it. And it's a very nasty thing that a lot of the people deal with. So people might lose you. For example, your girlfriend, you had an X amount of income, you were making an X amount of income. Because of that, you had access to certain venues in certain cities. And as a result, you have the kind of girlfriend that you could get at that time. And she was the best at that time. But now you're making, let's say, $10 million, and you could go to Paris. You could go to Paris Fashion Week. You could afford to be in venues that were way out of your reach. And now all of a sudden, you have access to extremely beautiful women, and your attention is suddenly deviating, because all of us human beings are driven by greed, and we want better things, and we should have better things. And you may scan the environment and you may find someone else. And that's what the girlfriend might be thinking, that, okay, if he makes the money, he's going to have access and he's going to find out that I'm not the best he could get and he would leave me. So she has that agenda. So you have so many people that may be around you that have this agenda to keep you exactly in this place so that none of this is disturbed. None of this is disturbed. There is affinity and harmony maintained. And when success comes in, there is a disruption. So some people say harmony is a good thing, but I will tell you, disruption is a good thing. Disruption is a sign of transformation, where something is disrupted and something new is emerging, like success. So when finance comes in, there is a disruption because there is power there and everything gets disrupted around the power. But obviously something new emerges, something more beautiful than the existing structure happens. And when you're about to touch the power, you will have demons trying to stop you, trying to hold you back. And they'll use all kinds of tactics, including gossiping in your ear, poisoning your ear, and really manipulating your mind. And because these people have a place in your life, you will give them a listening ear. Because in the past, you could trust them. You think in the future you can trust them. But people change. Everything is harmonious when there is resources on the table. The guy that I was talking about with the Brazilian girl, he was a friend of mine since probably 18 years. I knew him since he was 5 or 6 years old, and we were friends. We grew up together. We used to play computer games together. But the moment the subject of women came, there was, it just fell apart, which means he was a brick. And of course, if you ask him, he'll tell me I was the brick. Okay. We can debate about that. But he turned against me. After that, he started to gossip about me. He started to fill my brother's ear about me. He started to conspire against me. He started to guard positions of power and where money is made, those positions. And he started to really play this nasty game. And I don't even think that he was aware that he was doing that. So everything is harmonious until resources are on the table. Everything has trust until there is significant amount of resources on the table. And that's when everything gets disrupted. So if you want extreme levels of success, you have to be extremely careful with your friends and family. Because if you're not going after extreme levels of success, we just want to make enough money to survive and a little bit more, people are not going to disturb you because that's not going to change your life significantly. But when you start to go after the big money, and initially they'll kind of let you be, when they really see it's happening, they'll come at you aggressively. And one of the ways they do it is also when you talk about big dreams, they'll make fun of you. They'll be cynical. You will be confronted with cynicism. You will be confronted with bad comments. You will be confronted with their words trying to control your power, control your capabilities. And you shouldn't be controlled. We are here to grow. We are here to transform. We are here to disrupt all forms of control and just flower. Kind of like when the little worm breaks the shell and becomes a butterfly. Transformation. But there's always going to be this resistance that you will have to disrupt and then transform into something else. So that's the video on why your friends and family don't want you to get rich. If you like the video, hit that subscribe button and I will talk to you soon.